So first off, we do want to give you a minute or a few seconds to kind of introduce yourself, as if there's anyone on this call that doesn't know you already. So
Sure.
introduce yourself and what you do in this industry.
Hi, I'm Jim Spellos. I'm president of Meeting You, and what I do and what I've been doing for 20 years is teaching people how to utilize technology more effectively. Before my time teaching, I was a meeting planner for 20 years, also spent some time on the supplier and AV side, but realized that nobody wants to be an AV, so I went back to the planning side and then became a teacher, and I'm doing what I love.
And that you do well. I've seen many of your presentations live and recorded. The good old days of live. Is it live or is it Memorex?
Yeah, well, I think it'll be live once again at sometime soon, you know?
I'll be live next month.
July is my first live meeting.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So we've had a couple with Site Texas, which I think lots of the industry people are having meetings. It's waiting for corporate and other groups to get around to it.
Well, I think that's the challenge that we have in our industry right now, is our industry wants to get back, but we have to respect that all the other people are going, yeah, not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah. So how did you get into this lovely industry we love so much?
Oh my gosh. I think like many of us years back, it was purely by accident. I was actually working in radio, hoping to have a career there, and needed a full-time job. So I found this organization, the American Physical Society, a national association of physicists, and they needed someone to do their editorial work. So got hired. Within about 6 months, my boss, who was a nuclear physicist, who was dean of nuclear physics at Columbia University, came to me and said, are you interested in doing our meetings? There's nothing much to it. That's exactly what he said.
Right. No, nothing to it.
Well, to a physicist, yeah, no kidding, right? You know, so I looked over the files. I sound cool, you know, there's restaurants and food and contracts. So a few weeks later, he came back to me. He said, are you interested? I said, yeah. He said, great. Our next meeting's in New York for 1,500 people and you're in charge. And he walked away. And
oh my heavens.
Guess what?
No panic.
Well, you know, I had an amazing resource. A mentor of mine, Ed Greeley, who passed away, unfortunately, many years ago, was the exhibit manager for our and the other member organizations. So I went down to him and started sniffling and crying. He goes, don't worry about it. Said, we'll take care of it. And as luck would have it, and I remember the person's name, Elsa Latanzio, was the convention service manager at the Hilton. And she literally took me by the hand and brought me back of house and showed me stuff. And, you know, that's why people do things in this industry, because we're fortunate enough to have people who help us out and move us forward, and then we get to pay it forward every time.
Oh, isn't that it is not a one-man show, not
Never.
anywhere.
Never.
And you have to depend on your partners to help you out. Where do you think we're going in the next 6 months?
6 months, we're not going much further than we are right now. I think there's going to be a lot of slow movement into live meetings. I know the industry wants to get there. The finance of the industry wants to get there, but the reality is the people are very mixed right now. And I think one of the things we have to do as meeting professionals is respect our members, is respect, you know, the shall we say, latency for them to want to go back. We've also learned a lot of lessons. As much as people claim they're Zoom fatigued, baloney, they're COVID fatigued, they're not Zoom fatigued. And what's really going to happen is this whole approach of virtual is going to replace some face-to-face, the shorter ones, the ones that don't require, you know, 3 days and a lot of networking. So we're going to have to find a ground, and from the next 6 months onward, we're going to be figuring out, and organizations are going to be figuring out, do I really want to pay to send those people there, or can they be as productive virtually? I think we're going to see a huge expanse, I know we're already seeing it, of virtual platforms. And probably the last thing that's going to happen is that our industry is going to get how to merge both the virtual and the face-to-face in a way that's meaningful for all attendees. And that's a much bigger challenge than anyone who wants to admit. Everyone's saying, oh yeah, you take my course and you can, no, baloney. You know, it's going to take a while to figure out the human element and how that's going to interact. And I think what we need to do is really have our learning caps on tremendously, trying stuff, understanding stuff's going to fail, and taking all these little pieces of information and then tailoring it to our group. Because remember, we're not in a one-size-fits-all industry. Everything that I do as a planner for organization X and you do for organization Y, guess what? It's going to be different because the needs of our attendees are different.
So you think we're going to be hybriding, so to speak, for years to come?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think the hybrid is going to be part of the palette. I think the completely virtual, the hybrid, the fully live isn't going to be fully live anymore. There's always going to be some sort of virtual component, but I don't think a lot of those meetings will be true hybrid. I think some will be true hybrid and some will be live meetings with a virtual element to try to generate more revenue for people, for the organization. If someone can't attend, but does want to hear the keynote, does want to do one or two of the things. Again, the tech hasn't caught up. And I think we can see this clearly in talking to all the virtual platforms who've been scrambling for the past year to try to make this work because they weren't ready for all of a sudden this jump from a live to a virtual environment. There's some good stuff I've seen out there. I'm sure there's going to even be better stuff that's being built, but it's a work in progress. And I think the biggest mistake our industry can make is thinking that in 3 weeks or 3 months that we're back to 2019. Ain't gonna happen. I'm sorry.
What advice would you give to our planner friends as the most important thing for them to consider right now for meetings in the next 6 months to a year?
Balance. Understand the balance from the pressure you're getting from above to drive the revenue that your organization needs with the needs of your attendees and your constituents who may not be ready to completely commit. I think they're going to have to figure out how to balance those two areas in order for them to create the best opportunity to create content and interactivity for their constituents while also moving the needs of their organization forward. I think if you go too far in either direction, you're going to do something that might, I don't want to say offend one side, but might not make one side very happy. I think balance is a key right now. Balance in learning, and not taking a course. I mean, not saying I have a certificate now in virtual meetings. Bull, I can't say words like that, right? No, it's one. No, it must be. I made it up. But really what it's about, Jill, it's doing it, failing, and going, okay, these 3 things worked, these 2 things didn't, and now we can move forward. So the sooner you can get on this approach and try things, the better. And one more on that, and this is going to be the toughest one, especially for third-party planners, is somehow convincing the people who are hiring you that failure is an option. I know it's never a nice thing to say in corporate America, but let's face it, any good organization fails and fails multiple times. And right now, we're going to need to use this, not only in our industry, but in all industries, as a trial ground to try to figure out what is going to happen and what people are going to be comfortable with. We don't know. And we don't know from group to group. So failure is an option. Embrace it. Try new stuff. Try a lot of new stuff and see what works. And the quicker you can start doing that, the more you're going to put together that little manifest of this is what works for our group. And that's cool.
And it's going to be different for different groups.
I always remember taking the CMP exam many years ago and not understanding about 40% that was on there because it didn't apply to the work I was doing. And I just thought, well, I must not have gotten that. But everyone had that experience because we don't know everything about this industry. We know our funnel. And our funnel is completely different when we move on to another organization. And especially for those who are grounded in associations, we had a pretty wide funnel, but I didn't get a lot of the stuff. I knew nothing about speaker selection because they were choosing physicists. And I don't know about physicists in terms of sessions, but we did know logistics and events and stuff like that. So learn, and you don't be afraid to learn and reach out to competitors, reach out to everyone and figure out what piece of information they know. As I always say about my courses, if you leave with one piece of information, you've done great because the human brain's not going to really capture more than that at any given point. So just keep,
And we've all been trying to absorb so much so fast. This
I'm
fire hose,
look at that Vulcan mind meld at some point to be able to just put it all in there. Doesn't
wouldn't that
work.
be nice?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for 40 years since watching the first Star Treks, you know.
Well, you're going to be the one that knows when they start chipping our brains, right?
That's what they tell me. I'm not sure if they're going to let me in on that. I'm not sure if I'm one of the experimental folks. I do feel a little thing
A
right
little.
here. I'm not sure what that is. Hopefully it's an itch, but I'll find out in a couple of decades probably.
Well, I am looking forward to what you learn because I'll let you be the guinea pig.
I'll take it. That's, you know, and you know what? There's so many of us who are willing to be guinea pigs. I know you are too, to be able to learn
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, our job right now is just to keep facilitating back within the industry. And again, don't never think you know it all, because you don't. And nobody knows the right way yet. I remember before the pandemic started, a friend of mine and I in the industry did a session on what the industry was going to be like 20, 30 years from now. And we sort of said it was going in this direction. Little did we know it was going to be fast forwarded by probably 10 or 20 years. But that's what this has happened. This has changed our industry, and it's
It has.
changed how people are comfortable meeting and what their limitations and what their expectations are. So we're going to have to see this play out on a long scale before we can really make any judgments.
I agree with you. I think you're right on,
Yeah,
as always.
yeah, I'm making it up. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but it sounds good. So there you
It
go.
does. That's what's important, right?
Hey, Jim, thank you so very much for being with us. We really appreciate your time and your knowledge and wisdom. It's wonderful to see you again.
My pleasure, Jill. Be well.
Uh,